Okay, everybody, I'm going to explain how I did this question. I've got 5 minutes. Jeff and the kids are downstairs watching TV, so here we go. I've done a few calculations ahead of time. So for example, I should state that my numbers are the same as what's in the textbook. So I have 5,000 preferred shares with a $2 dividend, so that's their preferred dividend. And then I have, which with a total dividend preferred shares capital of 150,000. Then I have 30,000 common shares with a total common share capital of 500,000. So some numbers that you can keep in mind is that my total share capital is 650,000. We're following, right? I calculated participation as 6.67. It's actually a much larger percentage, and you can use that percentage if you do this by spreadsheet as well. Just use the full percentage and it'll give you a more accurate reading, or at least I found that. And that percentage is calculated by taking the $2 preferred share dividend times 5,000 preferred shares. Friends, this is another calculation that you're going to be working with as well, because every time there's a payout, the minimum preferred share payout is this number, and that number for me is $10,000. So you take that $10,000, which is the preferred shared payout, and you divide that by 150,000, and that comes up with the participation rate of 6.67%. Okay, we got those down. Let's deal with the setup. I've put in a part over here for the arrears, which will come in handy when we do the participating and cumulative shares. Then I have the current year, which for part A is all you're going to use, and then I have the remaining, which will come in handy for part B. So for part A, we have the payout, which I have down here is 2014, so I have 8,000. And my funky little spreadsheet is going to go ahead and do its magic. So the preferred shares payout is 10,000. I've stated that. This part right here is taking into consideration the participation of the common shares, but they're non-participating in part A, so I'm going to delete that out. All right, so because we're doing non-participating, non-cumulative, we have a dedicated amount of 10,000 being paid out to the preferred shares, but we only have 8,000 payout. So we have to then have an arrears. So what we do is we just pay out the 8,000 and then divide that to get the per share amount, which is what the question wants. So I don't have that on the spreadsheet. I'm sure you can do it yourself, but you would take the 8,000 divided by the number of preferred shares, which is 5,000, and that came to 1.6. And I put that down here. That makes sense, right? Then for the next questions, it's 2, 2, 2, because all of the amounts are more than 10,000. So the 10,000 would be given to the preferred shares, and then the remaining would go to the common shares. So for question 2, 10,000 would go to the preferred shares, and then the 14,000 would get divvied among the common shareholders. So the 14,000 would divide by 30,000, which is the number of common shares, blah, 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 so on and so forth. That is part A. Not too bad, right? Okay, here is part B. Part B, for question 1, the payout, we've got to take into consideration participation and cumulative. And as I said before, $8,000 is not enough to even pay out the preferred shares dividend. So we pay out what we can, which is 1.6, and we pay nothing to the common shares, and then we accrue arrears of $2,000. I'm putting that up here because it's my spreadsheet and I'll do what I want. Now, the next payout, I'm going to tip this up a bit. It's a very technical setup here, sticky tack and DVDs. So for the next payout is 24,000. And we've got arrears of 2,000. We're going to satisfy that. My spreadsheet, because I'm fabulous, is going to already deduct this for me. So we've got a leftover of 12,000, which is not enough to satisfy the participation amount. The calculation of the participation amount is the participation rate, which we already determined before, multiplied by the amount of common shares money, word I'm looking for. So that would be, I deleted my formula. Way to go, Sheena. That would be $10,000, which is our preferred shares rate, over the preferred shares capital, which is that other word I was looking for, times the common share capital. So there we go. So we don't have enough to pay the participation rate, but we do have a leftover, and the leftover is 12,000. So we're just going to go ahead and pay out the 12,000. And right down at the bottom, my magic spreadsheet is going to indicate what the per share amounts are. Makes sense, right? All right, let's move on to the next one, 60,000. So we've taken care of the arrears, right? So we don't need that. We have 60,000. We're going to satisfy the 10,000 for the preferred shares. And then we're going to, oh God, I got to do it again. I never said I was good at Excel, so you'll have to just kind of bear with me here. 10,000 over 150,000 times 500,000. Perfect. All right. So we have a remainder of 16,000. So now we can deal with the other part of participating, or at least that's what I think this is. The answer was right, so I'm on board somehow. And the percentage is calculated in this way. The remaining amount over the total share capital. So in this case, it's 16,667 over 650,000, which is what the 150 and the 500,000 are added together. And then for the preferred shares, you multiply that amount by 150,000. For the common shares, you multiply that amount by 500,000. Don't ask me why. I don't know. It's fine. So it takes care of this for us, and it comes up with the total amounts with too many decimal places. You can formulate it so that it rounds it up to 2 decimal places, and then you go ahead and slot those in. So this number right here is the participation rate, which is 16,667 divided by total share capital. So that is the number that represents the percentage in both of these boxes here. So it's 2.564%. That comes out to this, and that comes out to this. So we've got no money left out in our payout. The preferred shareholders get 13,846 divided among the 5,000, and then the common shareholders get $46,153.85 divided among the 30,000 of them. And then those amounts, the per share amounts, are put into the question. So that takes us to the last question. This should be relatively easy, right? Let's watch the spreadsheet do its magic. There we go. So this time, go through it all. No arrears, because we took care of that with 2015. So we've got the preferred shares amount, the common shares with the participating, and then the remaining with the participating. So this time, the participation rate for the remaining is the remainder, which is 82,667 over the total share capital, which is 650,000. So the percentage over here is 12.72%. So over here, it's 12.72% multiplied by the preferred shared capital, which gives us this lovely number, and then the 12.72% multiplied by the common share capital, which gives us this number. Preferred shares are getting 29,000 and change. Common shares are getting 96,000 and change. And this is the per share rate. And of course, we have to round. Then you plug that in, submit it on Wiley Plus, and there's your A. And that is the explanation. I hope that makes sense. And that is the extent of my Excel skills. I hope this helps everybody.